What's going on, Steelers Nation? This is a Black and Gold Report. On today's show, we will discuss the Steelers releasing their initial depth chart of training camp and all things that go along with that. But before we get started, I want to ask you to hit that subscribe button down below. That would be greatly appreciated and would help this channel tremendously as we cover the Steelers and give you all the information that we want to and that you want to hear about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting out, the Steelers released today their initial depth chart of the 2026 season coming from training camp. And there's some interesting things that I saw in this depth chart. And what I'm going to start with is the offensive line. As of right now, your starting offensive line. At left tackle, you have Troy Fontenot. At left guard, you have Mason McCormick. At center, you have Zach Frazier. At right guard, you have Spencer Anderson. At right tackle, you have Dylan Cook. And at tight end, you have Pat Freiermuth. Tight end was pretty much everybody kind of, that was given. That was everybody knows Muth. I mean, that is what it is. But what was interesting to me is Broderick Jones is the second left tackle. Initially, and I know this is going to change 100 times before we get to the 53-man cut, but I thought, Broderick Jones being a starter last year, and I know he had the injury, but we're looking at him being in the second group right now, and that was interesting to me. Max Hanicher, he is second right now at right tackle. Behind Dylan Cook. And I think it would not surprise me at all, just seeing him in training camp and how he moves and stuff. It would not surprise me at all if at some point this season he is not the starter at right tackle or left tackle, either one. Just for the simple fact of he's a very good offensive lineman with great footwork, and that's going to bode well. The second group that I want to talk about is the wide receivers. Right now, your starters at wide receiver are Michael Pittman Jr., Roman Wilson, DK Metcalf, and, that's pretty cut and dry. I mean, we knew Michael Pittman Jr. was a starter. We knew DK Metcalf was a starter, and we all knew that Roman Wilson, had the ability to be a starter. He just was not, we didn't know a lot because we did not throw to the slot a lot last year and the previous years under Tomlin. And this year it seems to be that Mike McCarthy wants to utilize the middle of the field. And that's what we've been seeing a lot of in camp. Your depth at wide receiver is in the slot, you got Roman Wilson, Caden Whitgen, and Max Hurlman. In the outside receivers, on Michael Pittman Jr. side, you have Jeremy Bernard and Brandon Smith as the top three guys, and then Joaquin Davis as the number 4 on that side. And then DK side, you have DK, Ben Skowronek, A.T. Perry, and Levi Wentz, and Jacoby Kenny James. I think there's some very interesting topics in that. I know Brandon Smith is listed as a 3 right here, but I could very well see him making the plays to push some of these guys ahead of him. And I think that, ahead of him right now is Jeremy Bernard and Ben Skowronek. I think it's going to be a battle more between him and Jeremy Bernard as opposed to him and Ben Skowronek as far as who's ahead of him. Now, A.T. Perry's shown some flashes, and he's been very encouraging. But as far as who's ahead of him, that's not excluding Michael Pittman Jr. and DK Metcalf, I think that Jeremy Bernard and him have the battle. I think that Jeremy Bernard has got a lot invested in him, and that gives him a leg up. But I would not be surprised if he makes this roster in the end, talking about Brandon Smith, just because of his versatility and the plays that he's made in team sessions, and the fact that he's been working with the ones and the twos pretty much the entire camp and making plays with both. So keep an eye out for that. The next position that I want to focus on the offensive side of the ball is running back. Rico Dowdle has had a lot of 1 reps ahead of Jaylen Warren, but this first depth chart that's come out is Jaylen Warren, Rico Dowdle, Caleb Johnson, Lou Nichols, and then Travis Homer and Eli Heidenreich. Jaylen Warren jumps Rico Dowdle on the first initial depth chart. And then Caleb Johnson sitting there at 3. He was very highly thought of coming out of the draft last year. And then, he came into this camp and we acquired Rico Dowdle from Carolina. And he has looked very good in training camp so far, as well as Jaylen Warren. But I'm anxious to see that battle. Does Rico jump Jaylen when the 53-man cut gets here, or how do they plan on using them as a tandem? That's going to be very telling. At fullback, we have Riley Nowakowski. That he's the only one at that position. I know they've had some experimenting with Darnell Washington playing fullback in certain sets, but that's another one. Tight end is, of course, I said Pat Freiermuth, but second is Darnell Washington, and third is Robert Tonyan, and fourth is Jaheim Bell, and then after them you have Lake McRee and J.J. Calabrese. I think the Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington and Robert Tonyan is about as experienced and good of a tight end room as we have in the NFL as far as experience and matchup-wise. That is a big group of tight ends. Darnell Washington is a unit, and that's selling it short. And he slimmed down a little. He looks like he's dropped a few pounds this off season, but he looks more rocked up, if that makes sense. So that's going to be interesting to watch. That is pretty much wraps up the depth chart on the offensive side of the ball. Now we're going to move to defense. Your starting defensive front is Derek Harmon at DN. Your nose tackle is Yaya Black. Your defensive tackle is Cam Hayward. Your outside linebackers are T.J. Watt. Your inside linebacker is Patrick Queen. Your other inside backer is Peyton Wilson. And your other outside backer is Alex Highsmith. I think we're going to be on more of a attacking defense. If I had to put my money on it right now, we're going to move people a lot, and I know people in Steeler Nation have to see that before they believe it, but I really do think that Patrick Graham is going to revitalize this defense, going to make them reach their full potential, because those names that I listed are all pro caliber players. Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Patrick Queen, T.J. Watt, the list goes on, Derek Harmon. The list goes on and on and on, and I think that we could have a chance to be one of the best defenses in the entire NFL if it all comes together. Now, focusing on the defensive line. At defensive end, I mentioned Derek Harmon is the starter right now. Then you have Gabriel Rubio as second, and Anthony Goodlow third, and Kevin Jobedi Jr. is fourth. At nose tackle, you have Yaya Black, Sebastian Joseph Day, Esezi Atimwo, and Kyler Ball. That's a solid group. Defensive tackle, you have Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Logan Lee, and Dean Lowry. This defensive line group is insanely deep, in my opinion. those are a lot of recognizable names. Dean Lowry, you know what he was in his past. Moving on to the linebackers. At outside linebacker, you have T.J. Watt, Nick Herbig, and Jamin Davis. I mean, Nick Herbig is a starter in over 80% of NFL teams. Nick Herbig, his production numbers are out this world. His flashes that he's shown so far have been really good, and I'm anxious to see how they roll those guys in and out. I know there's so many of them, they can't get them all on the field at the same time, but it's going to be anxious to see that. You go to inside backer, you got Patrick Queen, Carson Bruner, and Jacoby Windman. Patrick Queen has solidified that spot, and his flashes in camp have been good. The other inside backer, you have Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb, and Malik Harrison. Cole Holcomb and Peyton Wilson are two quality, inside backers. And here's the thing about them. Peyton Wilson and Cole Holcomb are pretty good in coverage too. So you have a 2-for-1 there. You're not limited on what they can do as far as helping you in the defensive scheme. The other outside backer is Alex Highsmith, of course, Jack Sawyer, and Julius Westhoff. As far as outside backer, all the outside backers are T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Jack Sawyer, Nick Herbig, Jamin Davis, and Julius Westhoff. That's a pretty solid group. So you see the trend that's happening. This is some really solid players, and this has a potential to be a special defense if it all comes together. Now, I'm anxious to see this scheme under Patrick Graham. I know that we're trying to revitalize the Steeler defense, get back to the steel curtain days. But I do think that this is a solid foundation for Patrick Graham to, hit the ground running with. And I'm anxious to see this linebacker group as camp proceeds and we get closer to the regular season and these preseason games, how it rolls through and who plays, who doesn't, who gets reps. Now, as we go to the secondary, right now, Joey Porter Jr. is listed as a starter at corner. And I know that he doesn't have a new deal yet. I know we're waiting to see what comes of that. And I know that he's dealing with a little injury right now, but we're going to see there. On that side at corner, you have Joey Porter Jr., Asante Samuel Jr., Deshaun Jameson, Taman Lynham, and Amari Harvey. Asante Samuel Jr. has probably been one of the most impressive defensive backs in this training camp so far. And I know we're about a week and a half in, but his ball skills are probably one of the best on this team. And I'm not saying that because of a week and a half. I've just seen it in his tape. And he has shown that some early in this camp. And I'm anxious to see how much he plays, especially when the Joey Porter Jr. stuff gets worked out. He's going to make it to where he's one of those things where you have to make your coaches not play you type of situation. At the other corner, you have Jamal Dean, Dalen Everett, Danico Slaughter, and Daryl Porter. Jamal Dean and Dalen Everett. Dalen Everett is a rookie out of Georgia. He has had some flashes this he has had some flashes during his training camp, but I know he's a rookie. But if you can ball, you can ball, and he has shown flashes of I can ball, and I think this corner group has a chance to be really special as well. At nickel corner, you have Jalen Ramsey, Brandon Eccles, and Dante Kent. That's a solid group. Jalen Ramsey has that versatility to he can be a nickel corner, but also can act as another linebacker because he run fits so well. That's where we benefit, because he's a bigger body corner that can run fit and fit in an elite way. He's very physical, can set the edge too because he's so wide-bodied and thick, and his physicality speaks for itself. So I'm anxious to see how that works. And at safety, you have Deshaun Elliott, Robert Spears-Jennings, and Sebastian Castro. And the other safety, you have Jaquan Brisker, Jack Henderson, Devin Boykin, and Rayshawn Jenkins. Rayshawn Jenkins, they just signed, so I expect him to maybe move up before the end of training camp. But I'm anxious to see what he looks like as we get into it. So your defensive starters as of today are Derek Harmon, Yahya Black, Cameron Hayward. That is the defensive front. You got T.J. Watt, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Alex Highsmith as the starting linebackers. And in the secondary, you have Jalen Ramsey, Jamal Dean, Deshaun Elliott, and Jaquan Brisker. That rounds out your starters on defense. And as we move to special teams, the starters are at kicker. You got Chris Boswell. You know, Boz has been a mainstay. I expect big things out of him. Big leg, can get you 3 from long distance. So that's a positive. Punter, you have Cameron Johnston. Long snapper, you have Christian Kuntz. Let's see. Kick returners, you have Caden Wetjen, Jalen Warren, and Rico Dowdle. Punt returners, you have Caden Wetjen and Rico Dowdle. And the holder is Cameron Johnston. So overall, I think this is a solid way to start the depth chart being released. I'm anxious to look over the next couple of weeks, especially when the preseason games start and we start getting in-game tape action from some of these guys, how this adjusts and how this will move, and how much movement we have in the depth chart, which there always is in training camp, especially once cut starts happening. You're going to see a lot of movement, but I'm encouraged from what I've seen so far in training camp, and I'm so pumped to get in Acrisure Stadium the second week of September, and kick it off against the Atlanta Falcons and see what this Steelers team has got. And, you know, we will be doing videos as training camp progresses. I'm going to try to do 2 videos at the minimum a week, if not more than that, hopefully more than that. But I'm so looking forward to this training camp. And again, please leave your thoughts down below. It is greatly appreciated. Let me hear what you have to say about the depth chart. Please hit that like and subscribe button. And your support is greatly appreciated, and I do greatly appreciate it. And will greatly help this channel. And be on the lookout. I'm going to have another video coming out later this week. And I'll put a couple of shorts out there as camp progresses this week. You know, pads are on, and as things happen, I'm going to release shorts and videos on that. And I will see you in the next one. Here we go.